Hello, and welcome back to the Compassionate Curiosity Podcast, a space where we explore the messy, beautiful, challenging project of being human. I'm your host, Rachel, a women's wellness coach and yoga and mindfulness teacher at Tranquilo Pa Wellness. And I help women who feel stuck in cycles of stress, whether that's stress tied to their bodies, burnout, or emotional overwhelm, to reclaim peace and self trust so they can finally feel like themselves again. And here in this space, we dive into the stories we carry about food, movement, stress, our bodies, and self worth, sharing tools, reflections, and lived experience to help you soften the pressure, reconnect with your body, and create more space in your life to breathe, rest, and just be. All guided by curiosity and grounded in compassion. And I'm so glad to have you here with me today. If you've ever found yourself trapped in thoughts like, I've already messed this up, so what's the point? Or if I can't do it just right, I may as well not do it at all. Or I was doing so well and now I've fallen off again. Then this episode is for you, my dear. We are talking all about all or nothing thinking, what it is, what it really looks like in everyday life, why it feels so familiar, how it could be draining your energy or eroding your self trust, and how to break free from it with 5 powerful, accessible reframes to help you soften those extremes and step into something so much more sustainable, so much more kind, and so much more authentic. And so before we dive in, as always, I'd love to invite you into a moment of stillness with me, to take a moment to recenter ourselves, a moment to tune in inward, to check in with the body as a means to come back, to ground ourselves from whatever's going on outside right now. So, if you're safe and able to, I invite you to make yourself comfortable and gently close your eyes. And let's start by taking a deep breath in through your nose and a long breath out through your nose. And then just let your breath flow into its natural rhythm. And I invite you to bring your attention to your face. Notice any areas where you might be holding any tension, maybe in your forehead, your eyebrows, your jaw. And just notice, no judgment there. Accept it as it is, because it is. And just see if you can soften and let go. And let's take one more breath in through the nose. And a long breath out through the nose. And when you're ready, gently opening your eyes and welcoming the world back in. Thank you so much. So let's take a minute here to define what all or nothing thinking is. This is also known as black and white thinking. So it's when we see things in extremes. It's a rigid thought pattern that says you're either doing it right or you're failing. You're either on the wagon or completely off it. And let's look at a few examples of what this type of thinking can sound like. I ate one thing that wasn't healthy, day completely ruined. I didn't do my full workout, so why bother with any type of movement? If I'm not in control, I must be falling apart. I skipped a few days of journaling, so I guess I've lost all my progress. I wasn't calm or present today, so clearly I'm not healing. I lost my temper or got emotional, so I'm back to square one. Or I took a rest day, so now I'm being lazy or letting myself go. I wonder, can you relate to any of these? I know for me, probably 100% of those were thoughts I used to have and that used to run the show in my life. This kind of thinking gives the illusion of control, the illusion of clarity, the illusion of motivation. But what it really does is shut down nuance, that ability to see the in between, to hold complexity, to say, maybe today was messy and that's okay. It also blocks possibility and self compassion, leaving us stuck in a cycle of extremes that can lead to burnout, constant self doubt, and disconnection from our own needs and inner wisdom. And that is exhausting. So, if you're someone who's used to holding a lot, maybe you tend to show up for everyone, hold yourself to high standards, or feel like you always need to be on, then all or nothing thinking might feel familiar. So, how does this way of thinking take root in the first place? Why is it so common, especially when you're doing your best to hold it all together? All or nothing thinking often forms early in life as a response to chronic stress, perfectionism, or environments where love, approval, or safety felt conditional. When we're praised only for achievements or being good, we start to believe our worth depends on performance or control. And that wires the brain to equate doing more, being better, or succeeding perfectly with being safe or lovable. And over time, that mindset gets reinforced and it can shape the way you see yourself, the roles you take on, and how you move through the world. Maybe you're the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who gets things done. Or maybe that's who you felt like you had to be. You've likely been praised for being driven, focused, disciplined, or self-motivated. But that praise can create pressure, a belief that anything less than all in is falling behind or letting people down, that there's no room for mistakes, softness, or pause. And then you add on cultural messages like no excuses, clean eating or nothing. If you're not 100% in, you don't want it enough. Go big or go home. No pain, no gain. And it becomes easy to internalize the idea that success only comes through extremes and that rest, flexibility, or imperfection equals failure. So it's no wonder so many of us equate effort with worth or flexibility with failure. But the truth is, rigidity isn't resilience. What actually supports long-term well-being is self-awareness, gentleness, and the ability to pivot, not punish. So let's call out a few myths that tend to feed this all or nothing mindset. They're especially common when you're used to pushing through, showing up, and holding yourself to really high expectations. Myth number one is if I'm not doing it perfectly, I'm failing. This is one of the most common distortions and one of the most damaging. It sets you up to measure your worth through performance and to see mistakes as personal defects rather than part of the learning process. The truth is, no one does things perfectly because perfect doesn't actually exist. We chase it, we try to embody it, but it's an illusion and it keeps us stuck. Because ironically, it's the pursuit of perfection that often leads to procrastination, burnout, or avoidance altogether. Progress, real sustainable progress, requires space to be human. It comes from showing up, stumbling, learning, and continuing anyway. Showing up regularly with self-kindness and flexibility builds trust in yourself far more than swinging between extremes ever could. Myth number two is extreme change is the only way to see results. This one runs deep. You see it everywhere. 30-day plans, detoxes, crash diets, rigid schedules. And for women living in a chronic state of stress or burnout, this belief can feel seductive. Like if you just push hard enough for long enough, you'll finally feel in control. But the research tells a different story. Change that lasts comes from small, consistent, emotionally safe steps, not from unsustainable overhauls that shock the system. Tiny steps don't mean tiny progress. They're how the nervous system learns to feel safe with change. And that's where trust and momentum start to build. Myth number 3 is if I go easier on myself, I'll let everything go. I hear this one so much in my work with women. There is a fear that softening will make you complacent. And I totally used to think this too, that if you're not hard on yourself, you'll spiral into laziness or become a pushover or completely lose momentum. But this idea is rooted in misunderstanding motivation. Self-criticism may create short-term compliance, but it often leads to avoidance, shame, and disconnection over time. Research shows that self-compassion, on the other hand, actually supports accountability, resilience, and positive behavior change because it creates emotional safety to try, fail, learn, and try again. So you're not weak for being kind to yourself. You're actually building the emotional foundation that true follow through depends on. So now let's walk through 5 gentle reframes that you can lean on when those extremes feel loud. These are here to support you in shifting the kinds of patterns that we've been exploring, the all or nothing thoughts that pull you into shame, pressure, or burnout. So these reframes are practical grounding shifts to help you interrupt that spiral, reconnect with yourself, and invite more peace into your life. So number 1 is instead of I messed up, try I made a choice and I can choose again. You didn't mess everything up just because one choice didn't align with your intentions. You are a human being. You get to course correct. And so by shifting to I made a choice and I can choose again, it allows you to meet yourself with curiosity instead of shame or guilt. Number 2, instead of if I don't feel ready, I shouldn't start, try clarity comes from action, not before it. All or nothing thinking often convinces us that we need to have it all figured out before we begin. But the truth is, waiting until you feel ready, motivated, or certain often leads to paralysis, not peace. Most of the time, the insight, confidence, and momentum we're looking for show up through the doing. Even the smallest action, a step, a breath, a moment of curiosity can create movement and clarity. You don't need the whole map. You just need a starting point. Number 3, instead of I have to do it all, try what's the smallest loving step I can take right now? This is one of my favorite questions because it's so drastically different than I have to do it all. It brings you back to the present moment. It interrupts the spiral of overwhelm and pressure, and it reminds you that tiny steps taken with care are enough. They're enough to matter, enough to count, enough to begin again. Number 4, instead of I'm off track and will never get back on, try healing is a spiral, not a straight line. You will revisit old patterns. You will wobble. You will veer off track. That is not failure. That is exactly what growth looks like. That's integration. Healing includes pauses, regressions, insights, and slow returns. You can think of it like waves or seasons instead of a checklist to complete. Like seasons, each phase has something to teach you. And like waves, each return is a reminder that you're still in motion, even when it feels slow. Healing moves in cycles, right? It ebbs and flows. And some days you'll feel clear and steady, and other days might feel tender or chaotic. That doesn't mean you're back at the beginning. It just means that you're moving through another layer. Number 5, instead of I'm either strong or I'm falling apart, Try, I can be tender and resilient. This one is big because so many of us grew up with the idea that strength meant holding it all in, being unfazed, pushing through, unaffected, untouched by emotion. We learned that if we show too much, feel too much, or need too much, we're somehow weak. That if we pause, ask for help, or break down, we're somehow failing. But denying or suppressing what we feel does not make us strong. It cuts us off from ourselves. Real strength isn't about staying above it all. It's about being able to stay with yourself through it. It's about standing steady in the waves, not pretending they don't exist. And so, real strength can look like this. You can cry and keep going. You can rest and still be powerful. You can feel overwhelmed and still be deeply capable. You can feel scared and still show up with wisdom. You can be soft and strong, shaken and grounded. You don't have to pick a side here. You are multidimensional in that sense, and you don't need to earn your strength by pretending you're fine. Resilience isn't about pushing through at all costs. It's about staying present, adapting gently, and honoring what's raw and real. It's about responding to your inner experience with compassion, with flexibility, with care, and tenderness. That is not a flaw, my dear. It's wisdom, your empathy, your humanness. And holding both is what makes you whole. So, if you've been living in extremes, pushing hard, constantly questioning your progress, and feeling like you're never doing enough, I want to remind you of this. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to do things in a way that honors your humanity, not just your productivity. So this week, I invite you to try practicing just one of these reframes. Maybe there was one that stood out to you. Stick with that one. Notice how it feels in your body, and notice what shifts when you speak to yourself with a little more kindness and flexibility. You don't have to get it right. This isn't another thing to add to your to-do list. It's not a task. It's an invitation to just begin in whatever way feels doable today. That is the practice. That is always the practice, is coming back, starting again, and being willing to meet yourself with compassion. And so there you have it, lovelies. Maybe something in this episode resonated with you today. Maybe something clicked. Maybe something shifted for you. Maybe it sparked a new way of thinking or helped you see an old pattern with fresh eyes. Maybe you just felt a sense of relief at some point. Whatever came up for you, know that it's valid and that it's welcome. And if you feel drawn to share any of it, I'd love to hear from you. I'm here to listen and hold space for whatever came up for you. And I also invite you to come share inside the Compassionate Curiosity community. It's free to join, and it's a space where we explore these conversations more deeply together. And if you're ready for deeper support, whether you're navigating burnout, stress about your body, or feeling disconnected from yourself, my coaching sessions are designed to help you come home to your body, to your breath, to your truth, to you. And you can find all the details in the show notes for that. And as always, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, may you know that you are not alone. I am here with you. May you be guided by curiosity and grounded in compassion. Sending you love, light, and gratitude today and always.